Hi, I'm Jason Gant. I'm the pastor of kids and families here at Resurrection, and it has been an incredible 4 weeks. Now we're coming to that final session where we've hoped to equip and encourage and inspire you to become better parents. And it's been great with all this amazing content that Kori's poured into. We've got this last session, and I just want to leave you with this one thought before I offer a prayer, which is to remember that example is not the best way of teaching. It's the only way. Everything that we can do for our kids is to be the best example of who we can be with God and with others. And that's really where it begins and ends. And I don't always get that right. None of us always get that right. But with God's help, we can get better every day. I want to offer a prayer now before we get into this content. Holy God, transform us, shape us from the inside out, that we would be your instruments of love, that you would shine through us as we represent you to our kids, to our communities, to our family and our friends in the workplace and everywhere we encounter others. God, we give you thanks for this great material. We thank you for Kori's passion and strength and excitement about this material and helping us all become better parents. So we invite an openness of spirit in this final session to continue to grow together.
Welcome back to Conscious Not Crazy. I'm grateful to be here for this final session, and I'm grateful that you're taking your time out. Anytime a parent takes time out to try to improve yourself along your parenting journey, I think that's amazing, and you should feel really good about that. So if this is your first time tuning in, then thank you for joining us, and I'm going to give you a little background about me and how I got to be here and how Conscious Not Crazy came to be. And basically, I felt crazy and I decided I wanted to feel conscious. So this is something that I've been passionate about and have done for over a decade. It's a class. I started as a class that I was teaching at a school that my kids went to. It was a small private school. And I, at the time, had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I have 2 kids. Currently, my daughter is 14, my son is 16. So I'm a parent, just like you. And I'm in the thick of the teenage years, but I do remember the toddler years. And I still work with schools and educators with very small children. And personally, I've had experience as an educator working with kids from age 2 all the way through high school. So I've had lots of interactions over the years, and it's been really fun along the way. That journey's been a very, very exciting journey for me. And currently I do consulting work, and I go do professional development for teachers, or I go in the classroom and hands-on model behaviors and how to deal with maybe a child that they're struggling with in the classroom, or how to find a way to best support them in the classroom environment to manage difficult or challenging behaviors for them, to show them that there's a better way and to best support the child. Really, it comes down to being the best leader for the child that we can be, in a model as well. So we're models as parents we're models for our kids as parents, and teachers are models for our kids in the classroom. So it's my passion to hopefully make your job, whether you're a teacher or a parent, easier. That is my goal. And along this journey, I launched a podcast a little over a year ago. It's Conscious Not Crazy by Kori. It's on all the platforms. I launched that because I wanted to get this information out there, and I hopefully want to prevent someone from feeling like I felt. I felt like I was really failing as a parent when my kids were that age. I was constantly in power struggles with my oldest child, who was 4 at the time. Power struggles with a 4-year-old are not fun. They're not fun with a teenager either. But we've come a long way. We have a lot more tools and skills now. So I'm grateful that I was able to learn these tools and skills when my kids were very young, but it's never too late. It's never too late to implement the things I'm telling you, because what I'm telling you and the things I'm sharing with you will improve every relationship in your life, not just your relationship with your kids, because it's human behavior. It's not a philosophy. It's not parenting tip. It's just tips. It's just human behavior tips. And it will help you manage all those relationships that are possibly challenging in your life. So I am dedicated to sharing and continuing to share as I grow and learn more throughout my journey. So, Conscious Not Crazy is founded on 8 principles. In the second session, we went over the first 3. In the third session, we went over the next 3. Now in this session, we're going to go over positive intent and logical consequences. That's what we're going to focus on today. In the first session, we focused on just becoming the best version of ourselves, right? We started with just understanding ourselves to be the best parent we can be. Then we dove into the brain states and understanding the mind and how it works, and the emotional state, the fight or flight state, the cognitive processing centers. Then we dove into composure and mindset, attention, productive attention. What we focus on, we get more of. Then we talked about encouragement and connection. We talked about positive choices and empathy. And now we're going to focus on positive intent and logical consequences. And I truly think those are two of the hardest skills to master. And positive intent probably took me the longest. So don't be discouraged by that, because it is possible. It just takes practice. And I love using this analogy. If you've ever done anything like Taekwondo, you don't show up at class on the first day and get it all down. It takes muscle memory. Well, our brains are no different. They require us to repeat behaviors over time so it becomes a new pattern in our brain. We have to rewire our own pathways and undo the work that was done in our own childhoods so we can do it differently with our own kids. So what is positive intent? What am I saying when I say positive intent? And we talked about it a little in the last session if you tuned in, but it's assuming the best in others. And why is this important? Because it's a conscious choice to see the best in others. And oftentimes when we enter a room with toddlers or small children or even teenagers, we don't always see the best behavior. We don't always see things we want to see. Maybe my toddler got a hold of a Sharpie and drew all over my new leather sofa, or maybe they drew all over my fresh painted wall. Our tendency is to what? Is it to be calm and composed, or is it to freak out and react? Because we know that's going to cost a lot of money to replace, fix. So yes, but the problem is we can't undo it. The behavior's already done. We need to be, and I've mentioned this all throughout these sessions, we need to be in the present moment. It's already happened. The problem exists. We can't undo the problem. So no matter how great our upset gets, it's not going to undo what was just done. So what we can do is we can be in the present moment, we can take a deep breath, and we can approach our child with positive intent. And you might think I'm crazy when I say this, but I promise you it works. Because if we roll into that situation and we simply start shaming and judging and yelling at our kid, the kid's just going to be defensive or run the other way. We are not putting them in a place to teach them anything. Whereas if I approach the child and say, oh, were you curious about drawing? Were you wanting to draw? And then I start asking questions. Where do we draw? Does mommy draw on the furniture? Does mommy draw on the wall? Does daddy draw on the furniture? Does daddy draw on the wall? No, the child's going to shake their head no. Where do we draw? Paper? Yeah, paper. Let's go. Where do we keep paper in the house? Did you just really want to draw and you couldn't find paper? Again, that might not be it, but when we approach it with positive intent, we're putting the child in a place to learn the missing skill. We're putting them in a place that their guard is down and now they're taking in this knowledge and information and they're learning that there's a different way to do it. Because instilling them with fear and punishment does not teach. So we want to be really mindful of that. Okay, sorry. There you go. So it's a conscious choice to see the best in others. And this is important because what we see is what we get. So if you have a child throwing a tantrum and you're just focused on the tantrum, then you're going to get more of the upset. If we approach them in a way like, hey, I noticed you're frustrated. What's going on? With positive intent, did something happen to upset you? And we're not judging the behavior. Now we can help them gain new coping skills and navigate that behavior in a healthy way and maybe do it different next time. Maybe they didn't get to buy the toy at the store. So you're in the checkout, they want the toy and they want it right then and you say no. They're going to go to fight or flight. They're having a tantrum. We want to prevent them from getting there. What you could say instead is, are you really curious about that toy? Do you really like that toy? Well, I noticed you have a birthday coming up. Do you want to take a picture of that toy so when we get home, you remember to add it to your birthday list? Now I've acknowledged the child's want and I've taught them a skill that we don't always need immediate gratification. we can get delayed gratification and we can prevent the tantrum because they see hope for the toy in the future. And that's what we need to do. We need to acknowledge things in the moment as they are. When we focus always on finding fault in others, we place a high value on blame and punishment and a low value on change. Change behavior looks different. We motivate change behavior differently. Shame and punishment is not going to motivate somebody to change. It's just going to make them feel bad about themselves. The child is then left with two choices. If we're using punishment or blame, to accept the fact that they are indeed bad or defend their self-worth by engaging in a power struggle. So they're either going to be off in a corner feeling bad about who they are, or they're going to start arguing with you trying to win. Anytime you're in a power struggle with a child and you feel the need to win or they feel like the need to win, that is in fact a power struggle. That is exactly what that is, and nobody wins. Nothing is being learned, nothing is being taught. It's not a productive situation. But we want kids' guards to come down so we can teach them a new and better way. Personal responsibility must be cultivated. It cannot be forced and is required before a child can intrinsically choose to change their behavior. And we must remember that all behavior is a form of communication. How do you see your child's behavior? How are you viewing their behavior right now at home? Is your child being mean, or are they missing social skills? Did your child maybe you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, hypothetically, and the 4-year-old just built a huge structure and the 2-year-old just goes over and whacks it over. Is the 2-year-old trying to be hurtful and mean to their sibling, or are they missing social skills? They don't know how to engage in play. That's often what happens. Maybe a child bites. Biting is one I hear parents often say, well, if that child bites my kid again at school. And I'm thinking the child biting, it's just a reflex. They're not doing it to be hurtful. They're too little. They're not planning like, I'm going to go bite that kid right now. They're not thinking. Their minds don't work that way. It's literally impulse control. They lack impulse control, and it's just some kids are more prone to biting than others. What that becomes is a behavior management issue, and a teacher needs to be aware, or a parent needs to be aware that their child's prone to doing that, and we want to set them up for success. So is your child out of control, or do they lack coping skills? Are you viewing their behavior as out of control, or are they just missing coping skills? Is your child pushing your buttons, or are they seeking your attention? Again, kids don't care whether attention is positive or negative. They just want attention. So would you rather give them positive attention or negative attention? So think about that. Now let's dive into consequences. I want you to think about this. Mistakes are opportunities to learn. So how we navigate consequences matter. Our intention matters. We need to be conscious of our intentions when we notice poor choices. My son, he had a bunch of friends over one time. We had just refinished our basement, and some poor choices were made, and some stuff was spilled all over the carpet, and it was kind of a mess. He comes upstairs, and he was like, Mom, you're going to be upset. And I'm like, okay. So I don't overreact. I'm like, so tell me what's going on. And he told me the scenario. We went down and assessed the situation. And no, I was not happy. I said, okay, so tell me about this. I didn't get mad. I didn't throw an adult tantrum. I'm like, let's assess the situation, because I want him to have to go back and think about the choices he made that led to this decision. And he started to blame, and well, my friends, well, they did this, and he was placing the blame on everyone else. And I said, whose friends are they? He said, mine. I said, okay, whose responsibility are your friends when they're in our house? He said, mine. I said, and whose responsibility is it to clean up? And he said, mine. I said, it's your choice. You can choose to ask your friends to help, or you can do it on your own. That's up to you. But I was wanting him to walk through the choices he made. Now, how did this mess happen? What happened last night? Because I want him to walk through the steps and the choices he made that led to the end result, right? I want him to process that and navigate that, and then I want him to figure out the solution. Now, meanwhile, I'm not leaving it all up to him, but I'm leading, guiding, and directing him to how to solve his own problem, because that's a life skill he needs as he moves on in out into the real world. And if I do all the fixing for him because I think he's not going to do it good enough, then I'm not serving him or helping him. So we talk through everything and what he could do different next time. And then I ask him questions like this. Because I could give him a threat of, well, you can't have people over anymore. Instead, what I say to him is, do you think you're ready to have people over? And he said, no. I said, I agree with that. So I don't think we're going to, do you think we're going to have people over again anytime soon? And he said, no, we're not going to. And my son is very remorseful for the choices he made. And he starts just getting fixated on the poor decisions. And I stopped him and I said, and I love this analogy. I said, Matt, his name's Max. And I said, Max, I said, what's bigger, my windshield or my rearview mirror? And he said, the windshield. I said, why do you think that is? Because you need a big windshield so you can see the road to drive. I said, exactly. I said, could I drive my car looking in the rear view mirror? And he said, no. I said, no, I couldn't. What would happen if I drive my car looking solely in the rear view mirror? He goes, you'd crash. I go, yes. I go, you are focused on what's in the past, what already happened. We can't undo it, can we? No. But what we can do is make different choices as we move forward. So I want you to put your attention on the future and on forward and what you can do differently. And I love that analogy because if we don't, there's no point in focus. The problem has already happened. We are already aware that poor choices were made. The goal is that we don't repeat those problems. And my goal as a parent is to coach him through that and support him through that and ask him questions that are going to hold him accountable. So he's not blaming his friends and all these other circumstances, that he's owning that problem. And that is my goal as a parent. So our intention matters. And there was a consequence. He hasn't had people over since then, but not because I've told him specifically he can't. I'm like, are you ready for that? For a while he couldn't, and for a while he didn't even go anywhere. But he knows he's able, because we've been using these tools for so long. He knows how this works, and your kids will too. So we need to be conscious of our intentions when we notice poor choices. Making children feel bad just impairs their ability to think clearly and damages our connection with them. So what I'm able to do in this moment, instead of damaging my connection, I'm growing closer to him. I'm connecting with them because I'm supporting him and I'm not shaming him. I'm like, hey, I'm an adult. I still make mistakes, and that's okay. We're supposed to. Again, we're human. We're flawed. By nature, we're going to make mistakes. And I tell him, you're going to make more mistakes. I expect that. Let's just not make the same one again. Let's do everything we can with the information we have from this mistake so we don't repeat this one. There's going to be another one. I don't want you to think, again, perfection is not the goal. The goal is better, not perfect. So determine the intention here in this slide. You walk into a situation, you see a child pushing another child. So we could immediately walk into that and judge that, right? We could judge that this child is just being mean and is just pushing and hurting this other child. Or when we enter this situation, we could say, hey, I noticed you were pushing him. Are you okay? Tell me about what's going on. Seems like someone's frustrated. We want to approach it with an open mind and positive and we want to approach it with an open mind and positive intent. We must see the child as missing a skill to provide effective consequences. Is that child missing the skill of impulse control? Is that child missing communication skills? Is that child missing coping skills? Or are they missing all three? They could be. What skill is that child missing? That's the question we want to ask ourselves. We have a choice. Do we punish to inspire guilt, save to rescue, or teach and promote responsibility? We want to teach and promote responsibility. We don't want to save them from their mistakes. We don't want to clean up their mistakes for them. We want to coach them on how to clean it up themselves. And we don't want to punish them and just shame them and make them feel guilty. That is not going to serve anyone. We want to teach and we want to promote responsibility. We want kids to own their choices and know that their choices matter. So when they go off into the world, when they're adults, they know how to make better choices. and they're accountable, and they realize that they need to be accountable to the choices they make. There are two types of consequences too. You have natural and logical. And in this image right here, you have someone falling over in a chair. Maybe they were rocking in the chair. Well, the natural consequence is they're probably going to get hurt. The logical consequence could be maybe you need to sit on the floor, or maybe you need to sit on a cushion or something that doesn't rock. We don't need to shame or punish them. I notice you're not being safe in the chair, so maybe the chair is not a good fit for you. That's a logical consequence. Natural is if they actually fall, they possibly got hurt. Yeah, that stinks. That's scary. And that must have been really scary when you fell in that chair. That's almost punishment enough. Like, do you think that's a good idea to rock in your chair? We want to talk them through that and have them own that. They are not a victim to the chair falling over. They chose to rock in the chair and it fell. Now, maybe two kids are fighting. Natural consequence. They could get hurt. Maybe they don't get to participate. Maybe the other kids see them fighting and they don't want them to play in the game. And you allow that. That's a natural consequence. They are not being safe. Do you want them to play your game? No. Do you feel safe around them? No. Kids are great at natural consequences. And when we collectively make them a part of that, it is super helpful. And it teaches the kids that, again, their actions have an impact and they have a choice. So what type of consequences make sense here? Natural or logical? So we've talked about some of these, but I added a couple more. So your child, and there is not a right or wrong. I just want to provoke thought. When you're looking at these images, I just want you to think, is there a natural consequence or a logical? Logical is tied to the behavior, and I'm going to give you one example because devices are a thing, right? Our kids have devices. So I'm trying to have a conversation with one of my kiddos. Maybe it's my daughter this time. I've talked a lot about my son, so we'll talk about my daughter. And I notice she's not giving me her full attention. I might say something like, hey, it looks like you're not hearing me. You need to put down your phone. You need to put down your phone. If you choose not to, I'll come hold it for you while we have this conversation, because maybe it's something where I need her full attention because we're working on the weekly schedule or something. I don't know what it is. And so that is one thing we can do. Or I can simply say to her, give me your phone. She's going to be defensive and not super, that's not going to go well. It's not teaching her anything. I'm just powering over her, maybe instilling some fear and taking her phone. Which the other way, I'm giving her a choice. You can put the phone down. If you can't do that, I'm creating a boundary. I can take it for you. I can hold it for you while we have this conversation. Then you can have it back. So it's your choice. Would you like to put it down or would you like me to hold it? And sometimes if my kids aren't giving me their attention, I might say, but if I have to take it and hold it, I'm going to keep it the rest of the night. So it's up to you. What do you think they're going to choose? How do I get them to most likely choose to put their phone down? By giving them a boundary, by letting them know that if I take it though, I'm going to keep it a little longer. But that works better than me just going and ripping the phone out of their hand. Because now they're choosing and they have power in that situation. So consequences matter. Let's equip our children with the necessary skills to navigate life: self-awareness, self-regulation, intrinsic motivation, accountability, resourcefulness, and self-advocacy. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Often as parents, we keep trying on the same things. We keep yelling at our kids or telling them or asking them. We often will say, please do this, or do this and then thank you, or do this and it's not, and we make it a request, but we're doing the same thing over and over and it's just not working. So that's the definition of insanity. And remember, short-term easy is long-term difficult. So if we're going the easy route right now, we're going to have a harder time as they get older. If you put in the work and it's short-term difficult right now, while we get a little uncomfortable as parents and try something different, the long-term will be easier. And I can attest to that because it is easier with my kids now. And I am grateful that I've had these tools for so long. But I say that not to discourage you. If you have young kids, that's great. If your kids are older, it's not too late. It is never too late. The pathways in our brain can always be rewired. We can always try something new and different. It's never too late to make a change. So don't give up better for perfect. Thank you.
I want to thank you for joining us for this 4-week series, and especially want to say thank you to Kori for this incredible content, her passion around this. My hope is that you've grown. I know I have. That's our hope, to be with parents as your church. And maybe you can share this with some friends and reach out and connect and be a part of our kids and family ministries here at Resurrection as we have upcoming events, family mission trips, retreats, vacation Bible camp, lots of activities and ways to get involved. And all of that can be found at resurrection.church/kids or resurrection.church/parents. I want to give Kori one more chance to share her contact information.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun. So my website is CNC by Kori, and Kori's KORI.com. So CNCbyKori.com. You can find everything there, but I also have a podcast. It's Conscious Not Crazy by Kori, and it's on all the platforms, so you can find me anywhere.
We hope you found this helpful, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week and great time together growing with your family in faith.